Good afternoon, everyone. I call the meeting to order. I'd like to humbly acknowledge this land in which we live, learn, work, and play. It's Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree and Dene, and unceded territory of the Métis. Members of council today are wearing pink in anticipation for recognition of Pink Shirt Day on February 22nd. The regional municipality of Wood Buffalo is committed to fostering a safe and inclusive community. Acts of bullying, discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and violence have a profound effect on individuals' feeling and safety and self-worth. Today, we are wearing pink to spread the message of kindness, and we're encouraging others to wear pink on February 22nd to address bullying against children, youth, and adults by being active bystanders and speaking up and advocating for others. For the record today, we have Councillor Grandison and Councillor McGrath participating via teams. And councillors, if you have your video cameras turned on so that for voting purposes we can see your hand raised. If anyone in attendance wishes to address council on any of the agenda items, please register now at the Legislative Services desk located to my right, as I'll only be calling those who have been registered to speak. You must register prior to the start of the agenda item to which you are speaking, and registered delegates are permitted 5 minutes and must remain on topic. And before I adopt today's agenda, is there any councillors wishing to make a notice of motion? Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, Councillor Ken Ball, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the February 28th, 2023 Council meeting, whereas there's a significant shortage of available ice times for users within our community, whereas there are currently 4 ice surfaces available, and studies have shown that Fort McMurray is short a minimum of 2 ice surfaces to properly service a community of our size, and whereas many organizations are currently restricted on how many participants can register due to this ice shortage, and as a result, some potential users are being turned away. Whereas this prohibits organizations within our community to grow and provide adequate services to our residents, be it resolved that administration be directed to review the design from the 2016 for the North Side Twin Arenas at Abraham Landing and bring forward a report that includes the following information: analysis of cost of ownership, capital construction costs, costs related to the land and operating costs, analysis of the approved 2023 capital budget that includes projects that would need to be moved to further years to accommodate a project of this size and nature, and a capital budget amendment should council wish to consider adjusting the approved 2023 capital budget to include this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, Councillor Keith McGrath, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the February 28, 2023 February Council meeting. That administration be directed or asked bring forward for Council's consideration at the March 28, 2023 Council meeting a report on the feasibility of a bus stop at the Quarry Ridge subdivision located at the southeast corner of Highway 63 and Mackenzie Boulevard Junction. Such report to take in consideration any ridership, safety, and security requirements. And I guess for some of the newcomers, that would be where I guess we have a treatment facility where the 1935 Métis is, and now as the old golf course gets developed into commercial lands, we have a Tim Hortons and a Shell store there. So that's the reason to bring it forward. We brought forward a couple of years ago, as some will recall.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. What we'll do is when it comes forward on the 28th, we can discuss it then, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can I have someone, are there any other motions of council? Can I have someone make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can someone second that motion? Councillor Ball.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? I'm hearing none. Can I have someone make that motion? Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move that the recommendations contained in items 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4 be approved. Thank you.
Someone second that motion. Councillor Benjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion.
Thank you, and I'll call for a vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to presentations, we have Wood Buffalo Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee's annual report. I'd like to invite Owen Erskine. I believe Owen's online. And Jean-Marc Gaumont, former Vice Chair, Wood Buffalo Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee, to present.
Good to go.
Ready on the slides? Awesome. Okay. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Owen Erskine, Chair of the Wood Buffalo Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee, and with me this evening is former Vice Chair Jean-Marc Gaumont. We are here tonight on behalf of the members of the committee to present our annual progress report and make recommendations to Council. Our committee is made up of 11 voting members representing the following 10 sectors: land development, business, education, oil and gas, Indigenous, recreation, culture and heritage, seniors representatives, community development, safety and security, and a member of the public at large, plus 2 non-voting members of Council, Councillors Berciers and Banjoko. Our Council committee mandate is to make recommendations to Council on matters pertaining to downtown revitalization and to provide timely and considered responses to Council to all downtown revitalization matters referred to the committee by Council.
In March 2022, when we presented our 2021 committee annual progress report, the Council approved our committee 2022-2026 priorities, infrastructures, and enhancement actions. In 2022, the committee focused on supporting the implementation and monitoring of 15 of these approved priorities, which are in alignment with our committee 4 areas of focus: beautification, placemaking, neighborhood safety, and pedestrian friendliness. The complete list of our 2022 and 2026 priorities, infrastructures, and enhancement actions can be found attached to this presentation in your agenda package. Our 2022 highlights reflects ongoing teamwork between the committee and administration. A theme for us this past year was to finish up some of what we had started in previous years. Highlights include supported the completion of Kiam Community Park construction, supported the opening of the Downtown Community Policing Office, supported continued implementation of the Downtown Revitalization Incentive Program, as well as supporting the development of the wayfinding strategy and downtown wayfinding plan.
Our committee is so excited to have Kiam Community Park open to the public. On this slide, you'll see the space prior to the beginning of the construction of the park. Wow, what a difference. The picture really shows how vibrant the new park space is. Our committee has worked with administration from the beginning stages, including initial engagement through planning and design of the park, and we unanimously supported the concept plan. A primary focus for our committee was to encourage safety through environmental design. In addition to our committee, public feedback shaped the final design of the park. The park name, Kiam, was supported and recommended by 2 council committees, including ours. In the Cree and Michif languages, Kiam means let it be, and is used when you are at peace with yourself and your surroundings, and nothing anyone does or says can or will affect you, or no negativity will touch you. The next slide, or this slide, shows a few of the other amenities in the park that were not captured in previous photos. Kiam Community Park is an inclusive community gathering space that will contribute to the vibrancy, beautification, and activation of the downtown, while supporting ongoing investment and revitalization of the downtown. The park design includes features such as a community gathering spaces, a community use flagpole, a medicine wheel rock garden, a natural playground, an interactive water feature, one-of-a-kind basketball court, shade structures, and many other amenities. I'd also like to highlight the public art that is in this park. The mural along the side of the Arctic Winter Games office building, as well as the 2 unique benches installed in the park. These benches are also sister benches to ones located in Anzac and Sapray Creek. Finally, we would like to acknowledge and thank all the contractors, subcontractors, various council committees, and all others who contributed to the successful completion of this beautiful park. The committee also supported the reestablishment of the Downtown Community Policing Office, which recently held its grand opening in the Jubilee Plaza, former site of the McMurray Experience Building. The presence of the RCMP increases neighborhood safety in our downtown. As RCMP officer in charge, Superintendent Mark Hancock said, a new community policing office in the downtown will provide residents with a convenient option to access RCMP support and services, while also enhancing their visibility and contributing to public safety.
In 2022, the committee continued to monitor the result of the current downtown revitalization incentive program and receive presentation and updates from administration. In this slide, you can see the before and after pictures of the casino, who were one of the participants of the DRIP program. These programs continue to contribute to the overall beautification of downtown. In the next slide, you can again see some more beautification improvement made by the Rivers Casino, as well as renovation completed by Easy Term Auto. Committee members supported and engaged with the wayfinding strategy and downtown wayfinding plan during both phases of engagement. On the slides, you notice some of the proposed sign design that were used as part of phase 2 engagement. We look forward to our continued development with this project. Wayfinding is a series of visual cues to help understand where you are and where you are going. The cues can include signs, banners, public art, landmark, or historic building, color systems, and lighting. All these elements work together to create a cohesive system to aid in navigation and contribute to a sense of place. Placemaking is one of our committee's 4 areas of focus, and the continued implementation of the wayfinding strategy and downtown plan will create an inclusive, community-focused wayfinding system that will make our region an even better place to live, work, and play, and bring vibrancy to the community streetscape and the public realm through community placemaking, beautification, and pedestrian friendliness.
We have covered our highlights, but that's not all we did. In 2022, committee members also received presentations from administration and provided feedback and comments on the following topics: public art and the public art plan, downtown gateway signage project, accessibility audit project, Main and King Street streetscape design, spring street sweeping and graffiti removal, snow removal and winter maintenance, downtown priorities, downtown policing priorities, downtown area redevelopment plan, municipal development plan, urban forestry strategy, for McMurray Wood Buffalo economic development and tourism inaugural 5-year strat plan, and community and retail development program.
The next 2 slides will speak to our partnership with the community. Without this partnership, our committee would not be able to achieve the success that we have. The committee sent a letter supportive of the Arts Council Wood Buffalo intend to create an arts incubator within the downtown core, and a municipal grant request for funding to remodel the former landmark theater property on Manning Avenue into a space that can support arts, culture, business, and the community at large. In June of 2022, Council approved $5 million in funding for the Art Council Wood Buffalo to advance the Arts Incubator initiative. An arts incubator within the downtown core aligns with a number of our committee priorities of revitalization, placemaking, and beautification. We are so excited to hear the recent news that the Art Council has purchased the former theater. We look forward to continuing our support and relationship. We would also like to thank the following committees and corporations for their ongoing efforts to collaborate as we continue to work together towards downtown revitalization and visualization. Thank you to the Communities in Bloom, Advisory Committee on Aging, Public Art Committee, and Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo Economic Development and Tourism. We would also extend thanks to the Fort McMurray RCMP and the Government of Alberta for seeking and supporting opportunities to work together moving forward. We also acknowledge the ongoing hard work of administration and thank them for their continued efforts. I would like to highlight that in early 2022, the Communities in Bloom Committee wrote a letter of support to Mayor and Council for our committee's 2022-2026 priorities, infrastructures, and enhancement action. We look forward to continued partnership as they prepare to host the National and International Communities in Bloom Symposium and award ceremony in 2023. As proud partners, we would like to congratulate our local Communities in Bloom Committee, who recently won 5 Blooms during the 2022 Awards Symposium.
That concludes our 2022 year in review. I would now like to speak about our committee's next steps and priorities. In short, our next steps are continue what we started. We'll continue to implement and monitor our priorities, infrastructure, and enhancement actions. Specifically, the community looks forward to continued progress towards Main and King Street streetscape design, completion of the wayfinding strategy and working towards implementation, continued support for accessibility and walkability in the downtown, and continued support for the DRIP program and Communities in Bloom. It should be noted that these next steps focus on our 4 key priorities of neighborhood safety, placemaking, pedestrian friendliness, and beautification. This is the end of our presentation, and we would like to thank you for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Jean-Marc. Do we have any questions from Council? Councilor McGrath? Councilor McGrath, I think you're on mute there, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, through the chair, Mayor Bowman. I just had to find the right button. First of all, I'd like to thank 2 fine gentlemen there this evening. I don't know Owen that well, but certainly Owen, thank you, and John Mark. I know that through this time you had your own personal stuff, and you know the COVID was down with your hotels and stuff, and I know that you're semi-retired, but you stuck around to give us a hand. Appreciate that. I guess my question is the landscape or the streetscaping you're talking about on the Hospital Street overpass. Just I guess a friendly pat. I know at one point after the naming, from the 0.5% of the capital projects budget, we allotted some dollars for art, and those retaining walls and bridge abutments was a plan put forward to actually engrave those and paint art on them with the first responders and community and stuff as such. And I don't know if that's still alive, cooking. Just and I don't expect you to know that right off the top, but something you can take away, because I know that I know a guy that was very close to putting a motion forward, and hopefully it never got stuck up in the wash. But just keep on the good work, and even the lights that are in front of the City Hall today, they might be Christmas lights, but I think that once you light up a bit of downtown, brings a bit of vibrancy, and I think it cuts down on some of the activities. You know, the business owners are certainly swamped with like what any downtown is, and certainly the only free downtowns it seems that are spiraling or doing well in Canada are like Nova Scotia, Vancouver, and Toronto, Victoria. But I know you have your struggles, but downtown is looking good. just how much more cash do we need to keep it secure and keep it going. So keep up the good work, and sometime I wouldn't mind checking in with you to see where that mural is, how we're doing with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the councillor, through the mayor, thank you very much, Councillor McGrath. If you want to follow up with administration through kind of what specifically you are talking about there, and we'll try and look at it when we start looking at beautification and public art in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know the back wall that's done on the involvement, the kids around the community and artists that done that certainly displays a lot of culture and where we got our roots. So
yeah, there's some really beautiful stuff there. Thank you. Yeah. We'll if you want to send an email to administration through that, and then we'll definitely look at it when we start looking through some public art and when we're doing that sort of stuff.
Thanks again for your service. Appreciate it.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGrath. Councilor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and thank you, Owen and Jean-Marc, for the presentation. Owen, do you believe with the addition of Kiam Community Park, it'll bring more business and residential activity to the downtown core?
I would like to hope so. I think that it fills a big hole in some of our vacant lots downtown, and I think it shows. I think that the municipality and the community showing that we wanted to take that first step in doing something, and not just putting it up for sale and waiting for another development. I would like to hope personally that a public space like this is going to make people think about coming downtown more often, whether they're a business, a customer, or a resident.
Thank you. Is there the opportunity for that mural that is in the park right now, showing all the hamlets in Fort McMurray, to have a permanent place in Kiam Community Park?
I would hope so. I hope that when you were speaking about that building, that something's going to stay. That I really think that's a beautiful mural, and I'd hate to see it go at any point, but I can't say for sure. I would love to see it stay around. I think it's really beautiful. It really captures our whole region.
Exactly. That's why I love it, as it connects us together into one region.
Mm-hmm. Especially for those people coming from outlying communities, to be able to see that in the core, I think that's really special as well.
Thank you. I just have one more question. Are you able to touch on the accessibility audit project mentioned in the presentation?
I believe we're getting that presentation this coming month, so I can't comment on it yet, but I can invite you to our meeting for when we get that presentation, or provide you with a kind of feedback afterwards.
That'd be great, Owen, because I do get questions and concerns in that area. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you to the Wood Buffalo Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee for your report. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stroud. Councilor Dogar?
Thank you, sir, for giving me a chance. Thank you very much, presenters. The presentation is excellent, very beautiful as the park is itself. I have seen it and really amazed. But one query is there in my mind, that normally children would also be there with the families. And there's a traffic on both sides, on Franklin also and probably the main street. Have you catered that aspect of how the safety measures would be, consolidated or strengthened?
Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, when we were involved in the planning process for the park, it was something that we were made aware of, and the designers were made aware of. I think what we'll see as the park matures is that there are a lot of natural barriers that we have in the area, as well as a lot of distance between some of the spots where the children will be hopefully running around and the road. It's kind of a hard balance to try and keep the visibility high for safety standards. We wanted it to be a visible sightline from street to street, so people can see that the park is safe or what's going on in the park as well. So we had to walk a fine line with that, but I do believe that we'll see that there is a lot of safe distance and some natural barriers for the park to kind of separate that. I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
Thank you very much. I got the reply. But one thing was there in my mind that are we planning to build up some barriers around on both sides of the roadsides, like Franklin also, main side also, that the children sometimes they get, wild, they start running, and the mother is or father is running behind them. So some protective barriers are planned or thought or not?
There's no more current construction going in around the streetscape in that area. So what you see is how it's going to be portrayed. There's not going to be any barriers put in between the sidewalk and the park more than what we see right now.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Councilor Banjogo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the good works going on there. I really appreciate it. Sorry about that. So, my question about the park is whether we'll get some rides for kids to play with, or it's just going to be an open ground.
So we do have a natural park that is in the far kind of top corner closest to, I guess, Earl's or the Unifor building. There is a natural park and structure there that is all kind of for the kids to play on.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of it's not like your classic playground structures, but it's pretty cool and it kind of integrates to our surroundings. So it'll be pretty cool, I think, to see it in action. And
thank you, because I got lots of questions around that. I'll come to it later.
Thank you, Councilor Banjogo. Are there any other questions of council? I'm not seeing any, so I'd like to thank you, Jean-Marc, and thank you, Owen. And thank you for everyone on the committee does to kind of improve the quality of life for the residents in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a great support from administration and a great committee of really engaged community members. So thank you very much, and thank you, councilors.
Excellent. Great to hear. Thank you. Next, we have a report on Community Identification Committee recommendations. Name the park behind Nicole Dickens Field and Sister Mary Phillips School as Lauren Stedman Children's Park. I'd like to invite Christopher Booth, Manager, Community Development Plan, to introduce the report.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Chris Booth, and I'm the manager of the Community Development Planning Branch. I'm joined today by Linnea Stemmen, to my right. It is an honor to present this particular recommendation of the Community Identification Committee for your consideration this evening. It is proposed that the park located behind Ecole Dickens Field and Sister Mary Phillips School be named Lauren Stemmen Children's Park. The Stemmen family put forward this request in memory of Lauren, who passed away from cancer last year at the age of 12. I had the privilege of knowing Lauren personally. She was born and raised in Fort McMurray and was only 4 when she was diagnosed. Despite this, she exhibited courage and strength in many ways, in ways that many could only imagine, and she became an inspiration to all who knew her. From her church to her school to the SPCA, She was always active. Lauren was a driving force behind Terry Fox Day fundraisers at Sister Mary Phillips School, where thousands of dollars were raised for his foundation, and countless students showed their solidarity by dyeing and shaving their hair. One such event even drew a special visitor, Terry's brother, Fred Fox. Her efforts to support research into finding a cure also extended to the Unraveled Pediatric Cancer Program, which places a special emphasis on less toxic treatments for children. Lauren was mature beyond her years. She was an avid supporter of Santa's Anonymous and is the only child I've ever known to dedicate an entire birthday party to raising money for the SPCA. And when other adults were struggling with their own cancer diagnoses, it was Lauren who they looked to for strength. The community found many ways to support her in return. It's worth acknowledging that our own Oil Barons goalie placed a gold ribbon sticker on his helmet last season with Lauren's name. This just shows the extent of her reach, and Lauren's family is now seeking to celebrate her memory through the naming of the park where she played almost every day. The park is currently unnamed, and this proposal is recommended for approval by the Community Identification Committee and is further supported by more than 75 community members. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have any questions from council? Councilor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I would just like to state that the Community Identification Committee, of which I'm a part of, works extremely hard. And I think when this came forward, there was a tremendous amount of consideration to the individual as a parent who has also lost a child. I can tell you that the value of this for the family of Lauren is tremendous. And again, I would just like to support this and identify that the efforts of the Community Identification Committee and the work that they've done to ensure that this is appropriate is tremendous. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council, for your consideration.
Thank you, Councilor Grandison. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Councilor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I can speak now. It's just amazing to learn about the young girl, inspiring, emotional, and it's such in a short time to make that kind of impact. I think is something we can all learn from. And I'm trying not to cry as a mother. I can imagine what the parents went through or still going through. And if we do this to honor her, I believe we are honoring kindness, we are honoring strength, and it's going to inspire other people. So I just want to say this is huge, it's emotional, but I hope the parents are also proud and of the fact that they were given that gift of her for the short time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Benjoko. Do we have any delegates for this?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no delegates.
Thank you. Can I have someone make the motion? Councilor Grandison?
I don't have anything in front of me, Mr. Mayor,
No problem. No problem, sir. Councilor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move the park located behind Ecole Dickensfield and Sister Mary Phillips School, as shown in Attachment 1, be named Lauren Stemmen Children's Park.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor Stroud. Can someone second that motion? Councillor Banjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I second that motion.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or debate points of council? Councillor Ball?
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess this question would be for administration. I fully support this, but I'd like to know what else administration is planning on doing. Signage, identification markers, is there budget for that? Is there something that we can put together, some sort of package for identifying the park other than just in name, but actually in visual form?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, that's an excellent question. We're happy to work with our Public Works Department to see if there's opportunity to do that in follow-up to this meeting.
And hopefully we can get back to the family to let them know and have them involved in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Councillor McGrath?
Thank you to the chair. And just to make sure that I know that the CIC and the members and certainly what brought forward this evening very, very remarkable. But I think that once council approves it, it's just a standard procedure that the family get a hold of. And past practice has been that the family would get a sign at city council chambers, and actually we'd actually name the field like across the road from that. So just a question, I guess that's still probably the procedure, isn't it?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, you're quite correct. That was a process that we did. We shifted, or rather recently shifted more towards a strategy whereby we would present those during specific council meetings throughout the year, kind of accumulate a few of them and then do a presentation. However, I don't believe that's something we've been able to do recently, certainly through COVID, but is something that I do know that administrative representatives on the CIC are currently exploring about how to, resurrect or bring about.
Well, you know, I always get bugged about being the planning and those guys best buddy, but I appreciate all the work you guys do and giving a legacy to a little kid that fought maybe more than us old guys, but I need guys. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Are there any other questions or comments from council? I'm not seeing any, so I know nothing can replace losing a child, but I hope this park honors Lauren and as their children grow in the community, enjoy the park in their memory. So thank you. And I thank the CIC committee and everyone for bringing this forward. And all the, as we got 75 people contacted our CIC committee, I probably have over 100 emails and text messages from community members that were concerned. So thank you very much. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a report on the 2023 proposed community capital grant. I'd like to invite Deanne Berge, Director of Community and Protective Services, and Caitlin Hanley, Municipal Legal Counsel, to introduce the report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Deanne Berge. I'm the Director of Community and Protective Services. With me is Caitlin Hanley with Legal Services. We are presenting the 2023 proposed Community Capital Grant for McMurray Snowdrifters. The McMurray Snowdrifters Snowmobile Association is identified as a strategic partner and has been receiving municipal grants since 2009 for grooming of winter trails within the region. This capital request is to purchase replacement equipment required to do the grooming. The original piece of equipment was owned by the municipality, but insured by McMurray Snowdrifters and was damaged when it fell through the ice. The insurance proceeds of $115,050 was paid to the Snowdrifters, who in turn provided the funding to the municipality as the equipment owner. The Community Investment Program Community Capital Grant allows for up to 50% of eligible expenses to be funded. Administration worked with legal services on the recommendation, and it was deemed appropriate to provide the full amount of the insurance proceeds, given the insurance policy and premiums were paid for by the organization. The new groomer will be owned and maintained by the Snowdrifters. The administrative recommendation is that a community capital grant of $115,050 be allocated to McMurray Snowdrifters Snowmobile Association for the purchase of a groomer and be funded from the insurance proceeds provided to the municipality. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Do you have any questions from council? Councilor McGrath, or sorry, Councilor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Not so much a question, but just a statement that there are probably very few community groups that are as deserving as the Snowdrifters in terms of what they offer our community, the amount of volunteerism, the amount of work that they put forward, and I support this 100%.
Sorry, Councilor Grandison, right now we're just in a question portion. I'll come back to you for comments. Do any other councillors? Thank you, sir. Do you have any other councillors any questions for the presenters? Councillor Dogar?
Thank you, sir. Do you have some office where it is located, from where this business is controlled?
Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, the executive director is actually going to be a delegate, so you could ask that question to her.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
The executive director of the association is going to be a delegate after our presentation, so you could ask that question to her.
Okay, thank you. One more question. There was an accident probably which I could see, and the injured man is being paid by the insurance. Was he an employee of the municipality or of the organization?
Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, I think the delegate would also be able to provide some more information about that, but I can confirm the individual wasn't a municipal employee. The groomer was legally owned by the municipality, but it was used exclusively by the Snowdrifters.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Are there any other questions for the delegates? Councilor Dogar?
This business is for recreation purpose or some infrastructure construction also. I see the cat that they also used for developing or grooming some tracks in the forest.
Yep. Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, they're a not-for-profit association, and so they operate for recreational purposes. Individuals in the community can become members by paying a membership fee. And then what the volunteers and members do is they use the groomer to groom approximately 300 kilometers of trail in our community that is used by the members to snowmobile.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive reply.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Do you have any questions from council? Councilor Grandison, did you have a question? Okay, thank you.
No.
Do we have any other delegates to this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We do have one registered delegate. Karen Downey with McMurray Snowdrifters is joining us this evening via MS Teams.
Hi, Karen. If you could just state your name for the record, and you have 5 minutes to present, and just remain online for any questions, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Karen Downey. I work with the Snowdrifters Club. Thank you for having me back again this evening. I'm pleased with the administration's recommendation this evening for the purchase of a new groomer. As it was explained, we are just looking to purchase a replacement for what was written off in the incident that happened in November of last year. So Snowdrifters Club did pay for the insurance on that, but it was what we found out through this process is that the unit was purchased and then gifted to Snowdrifters as being the operator maintainer of that. So with the funds being returned back to us after the total loss, we returned that to the RMWB and are just looking to purchase the replacement right now. So before I go to questions, I just wanted to provide a quick update from last time we came, because there was Councillor Banjoko had asked about funding, and I'm excited to share just an update on that end. So since our last meeting in November, I had explained our partnership with the Alberta Snowmobile Association, and I'd just like to highlight that while we do use the RMWB as a funder for this program, we also in partnership with the Alberta Snowmobile Association, who advocates for snowmobile usage in the province. We were able to receive $55,605 grant for our program. So our region is getting a huge boost right now from the province of Alberta, and we're really appreciative of that. So we are getting some much needed facility upgrades, and we are hoping to have that completed and installed for March 11th. That's our goal. Over the last 3 years, we haven't been able to host our standard rallies that we do, and we have a goal of just hosting our rally again on March 11th. So some exciting times in our club, probably some riders from around the province coming to our community on March 11th to join us in that ride, and we're just excited to share that bit of news this evening about that additional funding. I'm happy to answer questions, and that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Karen. What is the actual cost of the new groomer, Karen?
The actual cost of the groomer is the $115,000.
Oh, that is perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair. Just wondering, ma'am, what is the most easterly point now where you groom the trails, and what's the most northerly point? And I guess that's kind of two questions, and then the last one, so I want to rattle back and forth. You still have the cabin on going down to Clearwater, the original cabin?
As for the cabin, I'm not familiar with any club cabin on the Clearwater. There is some cabins that are owned by a separate company that's not with us. I believe they're still still there. As for how far east or west our trails go, I'm a rider and I'm a good follower, so I just kind of follow along.
Okay, well, I
have questions about the office and anything that happens in here, I can help you out. But as for anything about coordinates, I can get you into someone else.
I'd always take a chance to say, Ronnie, boy, as I started that Snowdrifters, and Ronnie and of course Ronnie's gone now, but I'm sure Abraham and Chartrand are around, so keep up the good work. And that Drifters Club, that brought a lot of good times to McMurray for sure.
Big shoes to fill, for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Grandison.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I turned my hand down because I prematurely made my statements, but I'll reiterate again to the efforts, the volunteerism, the amount of time that those community members of the Snowdrifters that put into providing a service to our community is just tremendous. And I support this 100%. I support the Snowdrifters 100%, and nothing more than that. No question. Just a statement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for reminding me to wait my turn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Grandison. Are there any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Can I have someone make the motion? Councillor Ball?
I move that a community capital grant of $115,050 be allocated to the McMurray Snowdrifters Snowmobile Association from the insurance proceeds provided to the municipality.
Thank you. Can I have someone second that motion? Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. This is a huge undertaking by the McMurray Snowdrifters Snowmobile Association and volunteers in grooming over 300 kilometers in our region. Living in a rural hamlet where some of the trails are located, I'm aware of how much this is appreciated. So I appreciate if you let your members know we really enjoy what you do, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council. Go ahead, Karen, sorry.
I'm just appreciative of the kind words, so thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Karen. And yeah, we definitely, what you provide the community definitely improves the quality of life for many of the residents, so thank you. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you again. Before moving on to the next item, as a reminder to members of the public present in the gallery who wish to speak to an agenda item, please register with the Legislative Services prior to the start of that item. Next, we have a report on the Reflections Lookout Budget Amendment. I'd like to invite Keith Smith, Director of Public Works, and Stephen Fudge, Manager Parks, and to introduce the report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Keith Smith, and I'm the Director of your Public Works Department. With me, I have Stephen Fudge, who is your Parks Manager. We are here this evening to discuss Phase 2 of Reflections Lookout Park, located in Beacon Hill. Reflections Lookout Park. The intent of this project is to construct a passive recreational space that allows users to reflect upon the 2016 wildfire and honor the memory of youth lost and recognize the efforts of our first responders. In 2022, the park was officially named Reflections Lookout. It was formerly known as Memorial Park. As you can see on the slide, Phase 1 was completed in 2021, and the allotted budget of $500,000 was expended. Due to increased industry and material costs, the pricing received for Phase 2 exceeded the allocated budget of $1 million. Parks is requesting an additional funding of $2,015,057 to complete Phase 2 construction. The original scope included entry plaza, including park name, nodes along the pathway, a lookout pergola with viewing area, asphalt trail to the playground, gathering plaza, which included the playground's name, natural playground, a parking lot, lighting, and landscaping. As shown on the slide, in the top left-hand corner, number 1 being the entry plaza, is intended to be the start of the interpretive pathway. To provide a gateway experience, the use of retaining walls have been introduced with park name and signage. In the right-hand corner, you will see the pathway nodes. 6 nodes will be located along the interpretive pathway. Each will include a frame that showcase viewpoints and offer picture-taking opportunities for park users. Number 3 being the lookout pergola. The lookout is intended to be the end of the interpretive pathway section and to provide a viewing area looking over Fort McMurray, including Responders Way and the overpass. And I've been in this area quite a few times during the construction, and the view is just breathtaking of our community. The asphalt trail from the lookout to the playground is intended to provide an additional park access and experience. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see the gathering plaza, which includes planting, a gathering area, and retaining walls to display the playground's name. Number 6 is the playground itself is dedicated to Emily Ryan, and the name was approved in 2022. The natural playground consists of various wooden play features and includes a custom-designed owl. Emily's passion was reading, and she loved owls. There is a reading chair located adjacent to the playground. Number 7 being the parking lot guarantees accessibility to the park and provides mitigation of on-street parking. Number 8, 9, and 10 shows the lighting. The trail and the playground lighting will encourage winter use for safety for our park users. The look at pergola is an important feature as it will also be visible from the downtown, looking up at Beacon Hill community. The illumination of the structure provides a visible element at night, creating a beacon reflecting the Beacon Hill community name. The design we just walked you through is the original intent of the park, informed by the public engagement, the park's master plan, and conversations with stakeholders, including Emily's family. The remaining original budget of $1 million will not be sufficient in our current market reality. We have provided 2 alternative options if the $2,015,057 ask is not approved. What you see on this slide is what we call the 50% scope reduction. It will proceed with a 50% scope reduction, and some key elements can still be delivered to provide a functional park. This would include an initial budget request of $700,000. The deliverables that are included are the entry plaza, nodes along the pathway, viewing area, natural playground, and a gathering plaza. What will be removed will be the redesign of the entry plaza, the asphalt trail to the playground, the outlook pergola structure, lighting, and the parking lot. The alternative option number 2 is the 70% scope reduction. To accommodate the available project budget, which is remaining $1 million, a 70% scope reduction will need to be implemented. Some key elements can still be delivered, and these include the interplaza, resized retaining walls to accommodate park name, natural playground, and a lookout viewing area with seating options. What you see on the screen will be deliverables further removed from the scope. Nodes along the pathway will no longer be there. No longer will there be a gathering plaza, the asphalt trail to the playground. The outlook pergola structure will be removed, as well as lighting and the parking lot. This slide is to show the impacts of the prices based on the December 2021 estimate compared to May of 2022 when this went to tender. The time we received the estimate for the park compared to the actuals. The estimations used were recent projects at the time of estimations. This is a reality we are facing while delivering all of our projects. The mobilization, demob, has increased by 24%. Demolition rehabilitation has increased by 541%. Site prep and earthworks increased by 107%. Lighting has increased by 160%. Hardscape and parking lot has increased by 61%. Features, nodes, and outlook is 180%. And the playground itself has increased by 54% from the time of estimation to the time it went to market. To wrap up the presentation, we have a short video that will capture the essence of the park. Keep in mind, this is a preliminary concept, and a lot of what you will see in this video will change, and the name itself has changed from Reflections, and originally it was Memorial. This video is of the original design, what was approved originally through 2018-2019 budget. This is a $2,015,057 ask, and doesn't show the reduced scope options. So fingers crossed this works. Leave it to Public Works to show you a movie on Valentine's Day. In closing, it's important to note that the neighborhood of Beacon Hill was identified in the Parks Master Plan as one of the most underserved neighborhoods in the municipality. By developing Reflections Lookout, the municipality will deliver multiple recommendations noted in that Parks Master Plan and improve quality of life for our Beacon Hill neighborhood. Thank you, and with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Keith. Do we have any questions from council? Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. My question is amazing presentation in terms of what this has to offer. What are the ongoing operational costs related to this park?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, at this point in time, we would not have that information. My thought would be it would be like any other park that we have throughout the municipality, maybe 1 FTE, 2 FTE dedicated to it. However, well, I don't have those numbers.
Okay. That's one of the interesting challenges I find with approving a capital project. There's an ongoing cost that's related to that capital project. So as nice as this is, is it going to cost, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year for the next 20 years, 30 years to maintain it? So it becomes a much greater cost than the $2 million plus that you're asking. And I think I would need to know what those costs look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and thank you for the presentation. Can you hold off on the project to see if the grant funding will be approved? And how much was that grant funding that you're applying for?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, the grant funding is up to 80%, and our finance department absolutely will try to obtain any grant possible for this park. Typically, when it comes to grants, you have to spend the money first or commit the money, and then you apply for the reimbursement. So it's not like you get the money up front for the most part of any grants that I've dealt with. And I also think that it's important to note that phase 1 of this park is already complete. We're just looking for direction from you folks for phase 2. Do we continue with the $1 million spend, which would be the third option, or do we go with the original intent? So phase 1 is complete. It's already built.
So this funding or this cost was always part of the project?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, this project came forward in 2018 through honoring our heroes in Wood Buffalo Committee, I do believe it was called. It was approved in the 2019 budget for $1.5 million, 3-phased approach. Phase 1, which was $500,000, has already been spent. We finalized it in 2021. Phase 2 and 3 were combined. It was $1 million. We put it out to tender, hoping that it would be $1 million. It came in substantially higher, and that's the ask we're asking today.
Okay, and are most residents in Beacon Hill in support of this project?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, through engagements, individuals within Beacon Hill and throughout the municipality is indeed in support of this park. Beacon Hill itself is very much underserved when it comes to parks. Typically, you have 1 hectare of parkland per 1,000 residents, or Beacon Hill has 1 hectare of parkland per residence. The rest of the municipality has 9.9, just about 10. So it's drastically underserved when it comes to parks. So absolutely, this would be welcomed.
Yeah, that was outlined in the master plan, correct? That they're underserviced. So it sounds like phase 1 is completed now because there was some concern about the fencing around it.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, phase 1 is absolutely complete. Myself and Stephen walked it recently. It's absolutely beautiful. The trail's in place, and like I said before, overlooking our city, Responders Way, I can see it being heavily used, especially during fireworks or even on nights like tonight, just going out for walks. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Thank you.
And I think the CFO might be able to answer your questions as well, Councillor Stroud.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, with respect to the grant application, we have it ready to go, and it may require modification depending on the decision here tonight, but should council approve the $2,015,000 increase in funding, then we would be able to apply for up to 80% of the total of Phase 2, which, if approved, would be $2.3 million. And this does qualify, we believe, it falls under the criteria for the Investing in Canada investment program. So we're relatively confident, but we still have to go through the process.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Thank you, CFO. Councillor McGrath. You're on mute, Councillor McGrath.
That's probably the best time anybody's ever heard me. Thank you, Mayor, through the chair. With the grants, I guess we've been burnt a few times with the land transfer. We spent $80 million. We're still waiting to get it back. But my question would be, if we were, if I'm hearing it right, and I know familiar with the process, we allowed the budget. We done the first phase. Now the next two phases, were they captured in the original like geotechnical report on the slope stabilization when they done that?
Through the chair to Councillor. Sorry.
These next two phases, if we were to build them out, were they all incorporated in the first geotechnical report?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, absolutely. The first two phases were considered in the original design and pre-design. Phase 1 is complete, and as I said before, we were going to do 2 and 3, but we decided to combine them. So now we're doing the second one. Again, the request is for the money and how we do Phase 2. So it was a part of the original.
So I know the trail system is well established here now, but down towards the edge of the escarpment, like you say, fireworks that bring out people and stuff. Is there going to be some more protective guarding right at the top of the escarpment?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, I can't call it in the design, and not to say that it won't be, but however, the design was made, and in fact that it would be absolutely safe for users. If that was an issue once built further, I'm sure we would take care of it.
So one final question through the chair: the original budget was it 1.5?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, absolutely. It was originally supposed to be 3 phases, $500,000 per phase.
And now what's the total spend as you're coming back?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, we have the $500,000 in phase 1 originally spent, so that's done. And what's remaining is $1 million and a $2 million ask tonight, so it's roughly $2 million to finish. So the park itself will be about $3.5 million.
So we went, yeah. So we're looking at about north of $2 million in the original. That's about 4 years ago, right?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, it was originally in the 2019 budget, I do believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Benjoko.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. So this park, is there any consideration for the weather up here? Is there anything at all that will make the utilization longer than like 3-4 months that we have of summer? Is there anything at all that is covered that people can use the park, or is only during summer? I just want to know.
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, this park will be maintained to the same standard as any other park that we have. So it's primarily meant to be a passive park with trails and interpretive nodes, and those will be maintained throughout the winter. So it will be a park that you can use 12 months of the year.
For 12 months of the year. Okay. Thank you. And then I think Councillor Stroud already talked about the grant. We've talked a lot about that. So if we move forward at all, with any of the options, we'll still be able to ask for some grants. We'll still be able to process the grant, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, absolutely. The options, we will work with our finance department, and they will undertake any option to get any type of grant to help support this park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benjoko. Councillor Wall.
Thank you. Through the chair to Keith, I guess, and possibly Steve. I guess I do have some familiarity with this. I believe the document in front of me I wrote. So I'm trying to understand when we talk about original intent of the park, because we're looking for $2 million to go to the original intent of the park. And I think what we have presented in front of us is not the original intent of the park, because the original intent was a memorial park for the fire. It had a bronze statue. It had 88 stones that represented 1,000 for every 1,000 people. So the intent changed somewhere between 2020 and today. I'm assuming that's from public feedback and whatnot. And we talk about interpretive panels and all those sort of things that were meant to be for remembering the wildfire. Well, we're not doing that with this park, as I understand. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, you indeed wrote the business case for this park. I see your name there today. You're exactly right. The intent of this park was to have a playground, to have a trail, to have every aspect that you have there now. That was the original intent. The original business case, the original presentations that was made by the committee, it all had the playgrounds, it had the parks, it had the circular trails. I think it said a pavilion instead of a pergola. However, what you're talking about, the statue was originally intended to be a part of this this park. However, for further engagement, the residents of Beacon Hill and the residents of the community seeing that as a trigger to a time that may not have been so positive. And it brought up sensitive issues, and we as a community were not ready at that point for a memorial park. It was meant to be more of to go there and walk through it and reflect on what happened, but take your own personal reflections. And there was also supposed to be a tree there with different branches, 88 branches. There was also supposed to be, the park was not supposed to be a natural park. It was supposed to be a park that had emergency equipment or emergency, looking equipment. So it changed from that to what you see today, reflection. Now, there is a lot of nods to the fire. Obviously, it's a demonstration. It's a demonstration for us. A lot of it we'll talk about in interpretive ecological. There's nods to Emily, the owl, the reading chair. There's colors throughout as orange. So there's a lot of nods to the fire. And what's the beauty with this park is that with those nodes in the future, when our community is ready to tell the story or tell their stories, they will have that opportunity to do so. So that was the change. The park, the infrastructure, the design, all the original intent from what I can gather from my investigation into this. Just a few things such as the statue, such as the trees, such as those things that were triggers to individuals. They did not want it. That was the change.
Yeah, no, and I can appreciate that. I guess the reason I'm asking is quite simple. Council approved a park for memorial of the fire and the 2 lives lost. That is gone, right? It's now just a park per se that could evolve into something else in the future. So, frankly, I'm trying to understand whether or not the original intent is still in play today, and whether we should be building this at all. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, when I mean the original intent, it's the original concept, the original design. The original intent that was brought forward was to memorialize the 2016 fire and the 2 lives lost. The public spoke, and they did not want those triggers. The playground is named after Emily Ryan. It was one of the individuals who lost her life. The other individual's family wanted to be kept private. There's nods to that other individual within the park, but that family will know that they did not want to be a part of that. So it's kind of everything that was intended to be there, especially when this committee brought it forward to recognize the fire. It's there, but it's to a lesser sensitivity.
Okay, fair enough. I might have some more questions. I'm just not there yet.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Bussier?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bowman, to the chair, to Keith. Keith, just looking at the deliverables and impact screen of price changes, like when you look at demolition and rehabilitation, it's gone up 541%. But do we have a breakdown of what that cost was before and what it is now?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, I went with percentages in the slide simply because I did not want to put in the prices, because the lowest bidder obviously would not have been confidential. But I can tell you that with our projects, in 2018, tree clearing alone would cost us anywhere from 8 to 30K. What we are seeing today is north of 140K for tree clearing alone. So the cost to construct, the cost to build these projects has substantially increased. It's a reality that we face.
Okay, not knowing much about that, but let's use lighting for an example, because I'm familiar with that, because I have a wife that likes to go to park lighting, and I can go to Home Hardware and buy something probably at about 1/10 of the price. Like, so when you look at the lighting's gone up 160%, just lighting alone. Are there not other options?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, I don't really think that means the fixture. It's more of the conduit, more of the electrical, more of the labor to install it. It's not necessarily some big grandiose fixture. It's the what goes into it. Like I said, the running the wire, the labor, the conduit. You know, rebar has gone through the roof. Last time I checked, rebar was up 54%, so that increases your concrete costs. It's just not the fixture itself.
Okay. So getting back to the alternate option too, because I have a hard time approving a $2 million additional ask. When you look at your alternate option 2, does that take away the, I guess the 2 lives that were lost that we're trying to?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, the playground named after Emily is probably the most important part of this park, and in all options, that playground exists.
So it's in the final plan. Okay. I guess at the end of the day, through the chair to Mr. Smith, is there any opportunity to do the 70% scope reduction and then maybe revisit the other options or add them in at a later date when maybe some of the pricing comes down?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, that is always an option, and I do believe that if we went with the 70% option or the 50% option, we are removing the parking lot. What will happen is that where are people going to park? They're going to park on the road, and that will be an issue. So I guarantee you in the future, we will get complaints and we'll have to do a traffic impact assessment, and we will have to go out there and probably put in that parking lot thereafter. If we don't move forward with the parking lot, what happens is that it becomes an accessibility issue. Those that have accessibility issues cannot utilize the park as much as they want. And a lot of the engagement that we received from the public and in Beacon Hill was that they wanted to ensure that this park was accessible to all, hence the parking lot, hence the secondary pathway to the lookout being hardscape versus gravel. So there was a lot of thought put into this park and a lot of design. So if it doesn't move forward tonight, I'm sure that will become issues in the future.
How big is the parking lot? How many vehicles are you talking?
Through the chair, Councillor Bussier, 7 stalls, 2 handicapped, 5 non-handicapped.
How many in total? 12? 7. So 7 cars are going to cause congestion on Beacon Hill Drive?
Through the chair, Councillor Bussier, it depends on how often it gets used. As of right now, the parking lot has 7.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bussier. Councillor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, you know, I often hear about the community consultation. Is there ever a price tag attached to the consultation, or is there just a general, what do you want kind of question that's put out there? You know, we're sitting here as councillors having to deal with actual numbers. But when we go out to the community and ask these questions, and part of what you bring back to us as councillors, Mr. Smith, is this is what the community wants, or this is what the community says. But has there been dollars attached to the questions that we ask the community? Or do we just simply say, what do you want? That's my question.
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, your point is very well taken, and I was not a part of the engagement of this park, so I don't know if the dollar values were attached when engaged. However, the dollar values attached when engaged would not have been what you see today. So when it was engaged, you would have got this park for 1.5 million in 2018, 2019. You're not getting it today. So even if the dollar values were attached, it would not reflect on moving forward.
Which is fair, but I really question the value of the input that the community has made. If we go to the community and said, you know, the cost of 7 parking spaces is going to be $2 million, would they go, yeah, we need the parking lot? Or would the community go, yeah, it's not worth $2 million? Like, that's part of the problem in this kind of equation. Because if you come to me and say, what do you want? Without a dollar value, I'm going to tell you I want the Taj Mahal. But if you come to me and say, you know, 7 parking spots are going to cost you $2 million, I might go, yeah, no, I don't think that's worth it. I don't think that.
Councillor Grandison? Yeah, I get your question there, and I think Keith heard, and I think it comes down to us deciding tonight if we think that dollar value matches what the park will give to the community. But we'll go back to comments after on what you think at the end, at the comment section and debates.
Yeah. Why, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're always very kind at keeping me in track.
I try. Thanks, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Ball?
I like to use a bat to keep him in line, but I guess my question, I'm just looking at these alternative options and having a little difficulty with what's displayed here. So you're saying in option 2, there's no parking lot, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, there is no parking lot, but I also want to state for the public, $2 million is not solely for the parking lot. No. That's the increase for the entire park. Yeah.
I'm just trying to, and also for option 1, no parking lot, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, yes, parking lots.
So what I'm seeing in the alternative options is what we don't get versus what we do get. So can you do a rundown of, instead of what we're missing, what we're getting?
Absolutely.
For option 1 and option 2? Thanks.
So with the, would you want me to bring up the map?
Yeah, just
So this is through the chair to Councillor Ball. This is alternative option number 1, which is a 50% scope and reduction. What you see on the screen is what you will not be getting. So the asphalt trail to the playground is no longer there. The pergola is no longer there. Lighting has been removed. The parking lot has been removed. And the asphalt trail, oh well, that's a repeat, but the trail to the playground is removed. What you will get in option 1 are the entry plaza, the remaining nodes, the 6 nodes along the pathway, the viewing area, the natural playground, and the gathering plaza. Keep in mind that phase 1 is already constructed. So phase 1 is there. It exists in the real world.
and through the chair, phase 1 is the trail out to the viewing point, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, correct.
So when you say you would be keeping the, I don't know what you call it at the top there, the lookout, that includes the structure with blue lamps?
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, no, the pergola will not exist in this option.
Okay, thank you. And what about option 2?
And as I talked about, the asphalt trail to the playground, that's the secondary egress to the viewing area. The next slide being the 70% scope reduction, which will utilize the $1 million that we have remaining, which means no dollars gets approved tonight. That will see, again, what the nodes along the pathway is removed. The pergola is removed. The asphalt trail, which is the secondary trail, is removed. Parking lot, gathering plaza, lighting, and, reduction in landscaping. But what you will see There's some key elements that still can be delivered is the plaza resized retaining walls, which will have the park name, the natural playground, which remains with all options, and the lookout viewing area with seating options. That's what you will get.
Okay, thank you. But I don't see, in this illustration, I don't see the play structure located on it. So I assume it's just somewhere.
So, yeah, you see where that node is right there, right at the very beginning.
Oh, they've moved it over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Playground with the arrow goes
Yep,
to the.
thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Through to Keith. If I heard you correctly, if we take option 1 or 2, the alternate options, that we would be taking away the secondary egress road?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, you're exactly right. So I don't know if I can show this again.
But how?
So through the chair to Councillor Stroud, if you look at, right there. So you look at this map, you see the secondary trail. So what there will be 2 trails to the viewing area. The first trail in phase 1 is already built. The secondary trail would be in phase 2. The purpose of this trail would be hazardscaped, so it can be utilized by anybody with accessibility issues. And also it was seen as a way to get to the viewing area without going through all the nodes. And it was also seen as any type of safety issue, wildlife or anything like that. If you were walking down and you seen a bear, you had a way to get out. So it was seen as it's not a road, it's a path. Multiple ways into the park.
And it makes it more viable for people with mobility issues.
True to cherry, exactly.
Which we have heard a lot about in our region lately. Thank you. Not your problem, Keith.
And through the chair, for the record, my name is Stephen Fudge, and through the chair to the questions that's being discussed, some of the things that we've heard from the designer for consideration when we're looking at the alternatives, if we're looking at reducing some of the amenities and access to that park, the question becomes, is that the right location for the playground? Considering where it is in terms of Beacon Hill and that. And one of the things that we've heard is that if you're doing the restoration further along Beacon Hill Drive, you might want to consider relocating that playground up to that space. So now the intent of what originally was looked at for this space is starting to change and shift, which is why we came here tonight to look for direction and to let you know what some of those things entail. If we're removing a lot of the elements and this is just a walking trail to the lookout, should this playground be located at this space and maybe relocated where we have the gazebo and other amenities in that when we're doing that park restoration?
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. So, question for Keith. So the only options 1, option 2, the walking paths are not asphalt.
Through the chair to the mayor, the existing trail that you see there now is a zigzag brick path.
Okay. Super. Thank you. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question, I guess, to administration, not Keith, maybe you have the answer. I was kind of amazed that, I guess the question is the 7 parking lots required for a development permit? Because parks are usually used after school and on the weekends and stuff, and we have about 1,200 kids that go to school just up the road a little bit. But it was just like we built, a couple of schools up in Thickwood, we'd say, over at the cabin, and we spent a couple of million on a parking lot, but we go there on the weekends. Is there a reason why we'd have to build 7 parking stalls when we have multi-use agreements with all the schools? And it seems, because I've worked on both sides, and it's not like they wouldn't let you park here, but is there something, like, I learned to ask the questions now because of the snow dump. Is there something that drives our purse to build 7 parking lots? Now, I get the accessibility because I got a couple of myself challenged, I know that you need to, like a senior or like, you know, wheelchair accessible or something, but is there something that's within our own blueprint that makes us build those 7 stalls?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, I don't think it's legislated or a requirement. It's more relating to the accessibility, no doubt about it, but most of our playgrounds that we have in our community or any of our parks, as you said before, is around a school or some type of public infrastructure. This is not available at this park, so it's not like you could park at the school.
Yeah, no, well, I certainly know where Beacon Hill is. I mean, I can get pushed around a bit, but I certainly know where Beacon Hill is. I lived there in the early 80s, and where the park was going. You come up the road a little bit, and it's actually it do us all good to take a little walk. But I'm just wondering, what drives us? What came up with the 7 parking stalls? Like, because I remember the whole thing about McAuliffe. We talk about parking stalls. Well, we saved the A&W downtown to have the parking stalls for the park, but now we sold that too. So I just want to understand. The question is, why do we pick 7 parking stalls?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, it's not a requirement that I know of to have a minimum number. Why 7? Maybe it's a limitation, maybe it's a constraint, geotechnical. I'm not too sure. Why 7? Why not 9? I don't know why exactly that number. But again, you know, it's one of those areas where there is a park, accessibility. We do need to have area to get off the road. But I want to make it very clear, the parking lot is a small fraction of this ask. I know we're focused on the parking lot, but up to $2 million.
I'm focused on the spend. I want to know why you pick up 7. I'm not losing sight of what's important. Because in the wintertime, right there by the transmitter, the big tower, you can park 100 cars. I just want to know, because it's all money. And the other thing that frightens me a little bit, the question I asked earlier, the more weight you put on top of that, the more the bottom shifts. And they've stabilized that, I think, in my 40 years. I think I've watched them 4 times now. So the slope indicators must say something's moving.
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, I can't answer why 7 and not 9. That was a part of the design, and like I said, it's a feature that I can't answer.
So if you took the parking lots out, I'm sorry, through the chair again, if you took, what was the cost per lot? And I realized that's like with the lines painted on it. What's one parking spot like?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, in anticipation of that question, there's not one single line item within the design or pre-design that talks about what exactly the parking lot will cost. However, I would assume that it's around $100K for that parking lot. By the time you construct it, set it up, pave it, do whatever you need to do with it, it's about $100,000.
And we're still, I guess as far as maintenance goes, we're already doing the maintenance on the trails. We'd just be doing the maintenance on the add-ons.
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, absolutely. And you got to remember that this is a park, a huge item for Beacon Hill. This is a park that, you know, well, again, a destination for people to come and reflect on the wildfire. So these add-ons, I do believe, is part and necessity for the park itself. And again, get vehicles off the road.
Whatever happened to be that big medallion, I guess through the chair again, whatever happened to that big medallion that was going to be placed? I know there was an artist concept. It was something tied into the park, but going back, I remember the intent. I just also remember a lot of stuff. I just want to reacquaint myself because I believe that every time we put a parking lot someplace where it don't need to be, we take away the aesthetics of exactly what you're talking about. It just creates havoc down at the bottom of a turn. You're coming back out. I can just see it being a nightmare. But that's just my own humble opinion. I just want to know, every time we talk about parking stalls and I look at 2 empty parking lots across the street, something like we did with City Center, we came up with 3,500 overnight. I just don't understand the parking lot stuff. I just want to know the price. So I appreciate your help. Thanks.
Did you want me to answer about the statue?
Yeah, please. Yeah, the medallion that I think it came from the east or something like. It's going to be tied into the entrance into our city, I believe. But then it got moved over, and then it kind of went away altogether.
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, I'm not sure if that is that like the port of entry or something. I don't know if that's related to
No,
the park.
The port of entry is the one that the Rotarians are doing shortly. I think we got insurance money from the fill stations of the Welcome to Fort McMurray that we used to have the Visitors Bureau. I think we were setting out an insurance of that. I think that was going to be moved over to the park. And then the final piece of that was the trees that we planted, the 14 trees for 400 grand. They got burnt. I think we were going to get reimbursed for that, and that was going to be moved over to your park. That's the worst thing around being around here. When you listen, remember, and then people just shake their heads with you what he's talking about. But there's supposed to be a chunk of money already for this park moved over from those 3 projects that I just mentioned. Not the medallion, just the insurance money from the trees we planted to hide the trailers in the park, and across to the point of entry, which you we had that roll red building with the picnic tables and stuff. Separate, not to get confused with the Rotary, the good Rotarians with their signs and stuff. So I guess the question out of that would be, Keith Smith, to simplify things, is where did the money get transferred for those 2 projects, because they never got done?
Through the chair to Councillor McGrath, I'm not aware of those 2 projects. I do know the Rotary sign itself is built and it's in place, so it's erected. I don't know of any insurance money that got transferred to Reflections Lookout. I do know that there was 2 donations given to this park, and we're working on a 3rd, but it was nothing to do with insurance money or 14 trees. I'm not sure of that.
Well, I'll send out an email to our CAO and hopefully I get somebody to help me type it, and they'll understand, and we can get back, because I know there was some money shifted to exactly over to Beacon Hill. And I also realized that in the middle of Beacon Hill, there's a couple of playgrounds and stuff, so could it have more? It could always have more. A nice outdoor pool in all the communities would be great too.
Okay, thank you, Councilor McGrath. We'll get the CEO to look into that for you. Councilor Banjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again for the presentation. So on page 90, I see 2022 capital budget amendment, page 90 of your presentation. So that actually got me thinking that, is this an amendment to your 2023 capital budget, or is it 2022? And also, I just started thinking, when did you find out the change in the cost? Then on page 93, I see that total spend to date to October is $490,000. So has anything been done after October of 2022, or did everything stop awaiting this meeting and the amendment? So, or we didn't get anything, we can't get anything after October?
Through the chair, Councillor Banjoko, I think I recall all your questions. So for phase 2, that being phase 2 and 3 of the original request that came out in 2019, I do believe, that was we had a budget of $1 million. We put that to market. I do believe it was in December, around December, January sometime, and it came back in May of 2022. The value substantially higher than the price we had. So we had to take it back, and we had to really figure out what we were going to do with this park moving forward and what options we had. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of this presentation tonight, is that we have $1 million. Phase 1 is done. We need to complete phase 2. We're looking for direction from council on how to proceed. Full transparency. This is what it is. How do we move forward? So your second question is it an amendment of the 2022 budget, I think you asked? I believe I believe it was approved originally in 2019 as a multi-year project. So it was 2019, 2020, 21 as a multi-year $500,000 per year. Your second question, or your third question being $490,000. Phase one of the project complete, we had $1 million. We actually came in under budget by I think 10, 15,000, somewhere around there. So that would remain to move forward. So that's where that money comes from, or that's where that value is, under budget.
So there is no report after October? There hasn't been any development, no movement on the project since October 2022?
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, phase one was complete in 21. Phase two was supposed to go forward in 2022, way over budget. So that's why it didn't move forward. So there's been no activity on that since phase one's been complete.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Just a question, Keith. How, say, downgraded would the accessibility be to go with option one or option two rather than the original ask of extra $2 million?
Through the chair to council, or through the chair to the mayor, the parking lot itself would be designed to make it more accessible once connected to the hardscape pathway to secondary egress. So I'm sure there's something that could be done with the curb to make it more accessible. However, right now I do believe it's gravel, so I don't know how accessible that would be by wheelchair, but it's something that we would have to look at. It would drastically reduce the accessibility into the park.
I'm more concerned with the pathways and that sort of thing versus, say, somebody with a wheelchair, how they would get through the trails to the playgrounds and that sort of thing. So I know that's something we want to focus on with all our parks that we're making in the region. So would option one and option two downgrade that accessibility for residents with mobility issues?
Through the chair to the mayor, without the parking lot and the secondary egress, absolutely it would decrease the accessibility.
Okay, thank you. And then quick question for the CFO. On the grant application that we look at, how many boxes does this park tick if we're going to apply for a grant? Is there anything we're missing in this park that would cause us not to qualify for a grant?
Through the chair to the chair, I'm not 100% sure. I have the grant application in front of me. We would have to, with the recommended option, I'm quite confident, but we still need to speak with Canada on it. If we reduce it down to the other options, I'm not clear. I believe it would still qualify. It was a part of the COVID-19, getting outside, creating outdoor spaces that were safe to navigate. So I believe that all three would, well, I guess it would only be the two because we wouldn't need funding for the third. But.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Bussier?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bowman, through the chair to the presenters. I guess just looking at the increases in the cost to build this, I guess I'll just ask you point blank, if it was your money and it was coming out of your pocket, do you find value in the $2 million?
I don't think you can ask if it was his money.
That's too bad. Okay, let me rephrase it. Do you perceive value in the $2 million?
Through the
$2 million and 15, I guess it is.
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, are you asking me, in my professional opinion, is there value in the $2 million? Is that what you're asking me?
Sure.
That's a difficult question to answer. It's the original design of the park. It went through public engagement. It has a lot of key features. Like I said before, Beacon Hill is drastically underserved when it comes to parks and public amenities. The trail going around Beacon Hill is gravel, not paved like the rest of the community. So it would benefit the community. I've been there. It's a beautiful area. I work for Public Works. I love parks. Parks got a lot of love tonight on Valentine's Day. So absolutely, I think it would benefit the community. It's hard to really put a price tag to it. You know, in today's economy, you just living now, it costs us an arm and a leg. And you were talking about your wife at Home Depot. I'm shutting off my lights at the house that I never did before. So it depends on what you want to do. But I also want to make the point too that when Councillor Grandison asked before I got the information, it's actually $150,000 roughly a year to operate. And typically when it comes to any capital project is 10% of its value going through its life cycle with capital, any kind of capital upgrade. So that's kind of the dollar value associated to that. And I also want to make it very clear that I've sat in this chair before and people have asked me about grants and we've been very optimistic and it didn't come to fruition. So I really want to make it clear that the CFO and the grants administrator and everybody will make every possible to get these grants, but it's not a guarantee. So I just want to make sure you knew that.
I guess further to the park, Mr. Smith, is I think somewhere between the 80s and today, we lost focus on our parks. I mean, I find some of the parks that we take care of, or maybe we contract a lot of these out, they're, in my opinion, they could be maintained a lot better. Like, I mean, if you go back to the old days, the old Borealis or Haxton, we used to have paddle boats in there. It was really well maintained. It was manicured. The last couple of years, yeah, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's post-fire, we don't seem to focus on the existing parks. We seem to focus on building new ones and maybe not maintaining or taking care of the existing ones as well. And I'm not sure where the organization, if it's just that we contract a lot of the work out now and we've put it, it's not in-house, but it's just like Councillor Grandison said, like, what will be the cost to maintain this park, whether it's option 1 or option 2? So just more of a comment, I guess.
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, when you talk about like the canoes or the kayaks, that would definitely be programming. That would not be something we would do. However, you're exactly right. What we are doing and what we found is that we're bringing more things online. You look at Kiem, you look at the disc golf, you look at this park. These are all parks and amenities and facilities that was approved or wanted prior, years ago, and we're delivering them. However, we're getting less people and less dollars and asking to do less. So bringing on more facilities, bringing on more parks, having less people, service levels are going to go down. So either we decrease our service levels or give me more people and they'll be maintained at that level.
To the chair, is it, when you mention less people, like, our staffing numbers have dropped in your department?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, over the years, our staffing levels have reduced from time to time. This year we're under a freeze, so we can't add any more people, and obviously the facilities are coming online. Look at Kiem, we're looking at 2 FTEs just in parks, and you got facilities, you got different things like that. That adds up, spreads people over. And if you remember during the budget process, I asked it for a lot more contracted dollars in order to provide those service levels. We don't have defined service levels, and our service levels keeps continuing to rise and rise, and we don't rise in people or dollars. It's something's going to give.
But then maybe there comes a time when we stop building things. Like, maybe we don't need all
through the chair to Councillor Bussier, this one is a legacy, so this has been around for 2018. If you recall my budget presentation, my capital, it's all life cycling, and there's really nothing new. So we're just trying to maintain what's out there.
Yeah, I'm certainly not just pointing to this park, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bussier. Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. And I somewhat reiterate the comments that Councillor Bussier has made in terms of when do we stop? When do we look at what the future costs are going to be? Not so much just the original capital cost, but the 10, 15, 20 years of operational costs that have to be considered when we build these projects. But my question more specifically is, would a brick trail be considered accessible, Mr. Smith?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, it is accessible. It is a hard surface, but it's not as straight and narrow as the one that you see on the map there or the photo. So it is usable, but not as usable, and it's not the secondary egress that we talked about earlier.
So again, are we? I don't know. From a councillor perspective, it seems that so much of our desire is to build the Cadillac. And do we always need the Cadillac? Can we look at more cost-efficient opportunities that are still accessible and still provide services to our citizens? That I'm just not really clear on that, Mr. Smith.
So just through the chair, I think Mr. Smith made the point, which I think is quite useful for council. This is a legacy project. This is a project that was previously budgeted by previous council, that had budget money assigned to it, that had a design that was accepted at the time. And what we've come to the understanding is that we can't build it for the amount of money that was put towards it in the past. It's for a discussion of clarity and transparency for this council now to have a discussion about whether you want to proceed with the additional phases of the project or not. That's why it's before you. It's not for staff to do that analysis or that consideration. That's a decision of council of how to spend the taxpayers' dollars on these projects. We have a design. It was well supported by the community through engagement. It was supported by previous council. Now we're at the point where whether this council is prepared to move it forward with the price tags that are now attached to it. And that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah, fair enough, Mr. CEO, but again, I go back to, it's well supported by the community. Is it well supported by the community with all the facts, or is it well supported by the community with a limited number of facts? It's been my experience with the municipality over the years that we go out to community consultation saying, what do you want, without a price tag attached to it. I'm not so sure that the community is as supportive towards a project like this as it would indicate when there's no numbers attached to the question.
I think, Councilor Grandis, we can go back to that during debate on how we all feel about the project and decide if we want to, if the money should be spent. I think that'll be our decision as council on how much money we want to spend on the project, and then decide on which option we'll go with. So if you want to hold that thought, we'll be back to you. Councilor Dogar, you have a question?
Thank you, sir. It's not a question, it's just thinking of my own.
Right now, we're just at questions, sir. Just questions. If we have any debate and comments, we'll do that after the motion's on the floor. But right now, just questions.
Maybe my comment affect the next motion.
Yeah, that's
might affect it.
Okay, if you have a question.
If others talk so much, let me also give my share.
Question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, presenters. It's very hard questions you are done replying, and must be you have done a lot of work. That's why you are applying, and I appreciate my colleagues. They are so concerned, the veterans, about the taxpayers' money. Sir, I would recommend that this motion may be postponed to the next. Mr. Mayor, can I have your attention, please? This motion may be postponed to the next meeting so that at least I can be more prepared. Everybody is contributing a lot. What I read only few papers, and probably I will contribute better in the next meeting. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Dogar, did you want to make a motion then tonight to defer this to the next meeting?
Okay.
I'm just asking you if that's what you'd like to do.
Thank you. Through the chair, I move that a motion, this capital budget amendment, this motion may be postponed to the next meeting.
Do I have someone second that motion?
Councillor Stroud.
Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And opposed? So that's 4 against, 4 for, so that motion has been defeated. Do you have any more questions? Councillor Benjoko?
Maybe my question is defeated. I wanted to know why Councillor Doga, if he could educate us more on why he needs.
Wait, we already
but that's
passed.
defeated now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for administration? Not seeing any. Sorry, Councillor Benjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as it is, the phase 1 is done, right? So and I saw the map that the trail could continue with the funding that we have, and we'll be able to make it accessible to people with challenges with mobility with all the money we have right now, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, yes, phase 1 is complete. The trail that you see, I think it was on slide 2, inside that polygon, that trail is complete.
Okay, and we can do a complete loop around with the funding that is available.
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, no, we cannot do the loop with the funding that's available.
What can we do with the funding that we have?
Can I put this back up?
Sure. Option 2. Option 3.
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, what you see before you on this slide is what you will get with the funding that we currently have. That being the $1 million and you proving 0 to move forward tonight. That's what you will get right there. You get the existing, you get the entry plaza, you get the retaining walls, you get the park name, you get the playground, and you will also get the lookout viewing area with seating options. That's what it will look like. But I also want to make a point too, I think it's important to note that in 2018, 2019, this park was brought forward by the Wood Buffalo Heroes Community Committee. It was not brought forward by administration. So this was a public initiative brought forward during budgeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bajoko.
Yes.
Do we have any other delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no delegates for the item.
Thank you. I think we're going to take a 15-minute break now. That's 8 o'clock for a bio break for everyone. And we'll return back at 8:15, please. Welcome back, everyone. I'm just checking if Council McGrath and Council Grandison are online. Thank you. Moving on, just before I have anyone ask if anyone wants to make a motion, I just have one quick question of Keith. I don't even know if you can even answer this, Keith, but I'm going to try. With option one, this is hypothetical, I guess, what would be the price if we did have asphalt trail to the playground in option one? Would that be a substantial increase to the 700,000 asking that, or would that be?
Through the chair to Mayor Bowman, at this point in time, through the playground, that would remain gravel. That would not be part of 700,000. So if we were to include it, either we would need additional funds or remove a component to keep it within the 700,000.
Okay, thank you. Would any councilor like to make a motion at this time? Can I have someone make a motion? You have a question? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Stroud.
So to the presenters, so the concern for the mobility issues, how can we, is that something that, do you know the cost for that or where that would fit into the project?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, can you expand on your question?
So my understanding is if we take away the majority, or take one of the alternative options, for example, one, does that take away the path that will allow people with mobility issues to take in the park?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, if we go with option one, it removes that hardscape pathway, the secondary egress. It also removes the parking lot in which anybody with accessible issues would not be able to access the park. And it also, right now there would be a gravel trail that goes to the playground. The perimeter trail around Beacon Hill itself is gravel, so it would not be accessible. And if we go back to the 2019 Parks Master Plan that Council approved, it was loud and clear that they wanted hardscape paths. The gravel paths are not really accessible and can't be used year round. And also parking was an issue, including lighting. Lighting is very much a safety issue. So this is components that was a part of the Parks Master Plan. So yes, you're absolutely right. It would not be accessible to those that has those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stroud. This time, can I have someone make a motion, whether it be the recommended motion or another one? Councilor Stroud? Nope. Do you want to take a break to write it? Okay, we'll hold off for a few minutes if Councilor Ball wants to write a motion. Councillor Ball.
So you want to make a motion? Okay, I move that this item be referred back to administration to complete further costing on an alternate option one that includes hard surfacing or accessible surfacing that leads to the play structure and also leads to, there's a chunk of trail, I believe, that is currently gravel that leads to the remaining hard surfacing.
Thank Councillor Ball. Can someone second that motion? Councillor Dogar.
I second the motion.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other further questions for administration, followed by debate points? Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can Councillor Ball explain to us what this is covered? The mobility part for people that have challenges with mobility, would that be done? And just a few more, even for my education and education of other people at home watching.
Yeah, I believe that with this type of change, you would have, you would meet our engineering servicing standard for mobility to all components of the park. It just wouldn't have a parking lot.
Okay. Sad. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Any other questions of council?
I think it's just through the chair, it's worth clarifying. So option one removes a number of the items of the overall park. But what we heard was that as a referral back to staff for us to come back with an alternate option one that effectively has option one with fully paved paths.
Through the chair, if I may, can I throw it up on the screen? The picture, so that we're clear. So, through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, what Councillor Ball is asking for is my understanding that the pathway that leads to the playground, that will be paved, but the path that leads to the play structure will be paved. The path that leads from the roadway to the first node is currently gravel. If you were there now, it's gravel. And what I'm expecting is that you're looking at a price of what it would cost to pave that. That connects to the break. All the remaining, whatever you see there, the pergola, the lighting, the parking lot, the secondary access is removed. And we would also have to extend it along the roadway to connect to the play structure.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through to Councillor Ball. Does that, so we're going to take into consideration mobility issues. If we don't have a parking lot in front of the park, then we would need a pathway from the parking lot at the school for people with mobility issues. Is that correct? Pardon?
You can put a parking lot anywhere. It could be, the school's a long ways away from this, so it wouldn't make sense to put something there.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, this would not include the parking lot, and the school itself is at least a kilometer away. So there would have to be some way that we would have to get, if someone was in a wheelchair, from the road to the path. That's where you're coming from with this.
Exactly.
It's a curb, right? 6-inch curb or 8-inch, whatever it is.
So this is part of the motion, Councillor Ball? That we have somebody with mobility issues to be able to get to the park from the roadway?
No, it's not part of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. And I think, thanks for the presentation again, Keith. Thanks, Stephen. I think as we look forward to this, I think everyone needs to keep in mind also that this park was brought forward by community members who lost family members during the fires, and keep that in mind as we go forward. So I think the park, and keeping that in mind and that focus on the park with accessibility from everyone in the community is very important. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Yeah. And against? Councillor Grandison? For or against Councillor Grandison?
I voted in favor.
Favor. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna have to do a revote as we can't see everyone on camera there. So all in favor? And against? Thank you. So that's carried with 1 against. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we move on to the report, 2023 capital budget amendments. I'd like to invite Laurie Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer, to introduce the report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Laurie Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. Administration has identified 2 capital projects to be submitted for capital budget amendment consideration. Council is the approving authority for the capital budget, subject to the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Policy, FIN-160. The capital budget amendments will result in a net increase of approximately $840,000 to the 2023 and thereafter capital budget, as outlined in the budget net change summary. The first item is the Fort Chipewyan pumper truck replacement. While responding to a fire call on August 25, 2022, Fort Chipewyan Fire Department Pump 322 was involved in a vehicle rollover incident. The truck was heavily damaged. Insurance subsequently wrote off the vehicle and the need for a replacement truck was identified. The write-off resulted in a $420,000 payout. However, this was less than half the anticipated cost to replace the truck. We estimate that a replacement truck will be approximately $860,000. The second item is the immersive system upgrade for Emergency Management Hall 5. Due to anticipated challenges surrounding the wiring of technology within the existing structure of the fire hall, as well as the difficulties in sourcing the appropriate technology, this request is to cancel this project. The rationale for the new funding request and project cancellation is included in the attached individual capital budget amendment form, attachment number 4. Administration is recommending that the 2023 capital budget amendments, as summarized on Attachment 1, 2023 capital budget amendment, project amendment and cancellation, dated February 14, 2023, be approved, and that the revised cash flow of capital projects, as summarized on Attachment 2, 2023 capital budget amendment, project amendment and cancellation, project cash flow summary, dated February 14, 2023, be approved. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laurie. Do we have any questions from council? Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, CFO. I was wondering why the insurance covered like 50% of the value of the car. Was it of the truck? I thought it's supposed to be, if it's comprehensive insurance, I was thinking it's going to be, everything will be paid, replaced.
Through the chair to Councillor Benjoko, I don't have the details of the insurance, whether it was an older pumper truck that had been significantly amortized, or if it was the coverage of the insurance. I'm not sure. I could certainly check into that with our insurance group and get back to you.
I will appreciate that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benjoko. Do we have any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Laurie. I'll call for a vote. Oh, sorry. Do we have any delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no delegates.
Okay. Can someone make the motion? Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the 2023 capital budget amendments as summarized on attachment number 1, 2023 capital budget amendment, project amendment and cancellation dated February 14th, 2023 be approved, and that the revised cash flow of capital projects as summarized on attachment 2, 2023 capital budget amendment, project amendment and cancellation project cash flow summary dated February 14, 2023 be approved.
Thank you, Councilor Joko. Can I have someone second that motion? Councilor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from Council for Administration? I'm not seeing any. Call for a vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a report on the internal audit charter and the 2023 and 2024 internal audit plan. I'd like to invite Laura Ferguson to remain seated, the Chief Financial Officer, and Alicia Hubert, Supervisor Risk and Compliance, to introduce the report.
Good evening. My second presentation is seeking approval for the internal audit charter and audit plan. Here with me this evening is Alicia Hubert, Supervisor of Risk and Compliance. Her portfolio includes the requirement of the internal audit. Administration has prepared the internal audit charter and the annual audit plan for 2023 and 2024 is described in your agenda package. The internal audit charter is a formal document that defines internal audit's purpose, authority, responsibility, and position within an organization. Endorsement must be obtained by Council annually to ensure that internal audits align with Council's strategic plan and direction. The internal audit plan is a requirement under the internal audit charter, which provides a disciplined approach to the identification and approval of internal audit projects on an annual basis. 7 internal audits have been identified for 2023 and 7 have been identified for 2024. Council is the approving authority for the internal audit charter and audit plan. Endorsement for the internal audit charter and plan allows for approval and direction of audit projects. Administration is recommending that the 2023 internal audit charter and the 2023 to 2024 internal audit plan be approved. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lori. Do we have any questions from Council? Councilor Dogar?
Thank you, sir. Madam, fine. I know the importance of this segment. Audits are very, very important, extremely important where the money is spent. Internal audits, of course, very easy and comprehensive at the municipality level. One thing you said, 7 audits. Is it the 7 audits of the same expenses or 7 audit of 7 different departments? Or it is annual or 6 monthly or quarterly, please make me understand.
Through the Chair to Councillor Dogar, there are 7 separate audits. Some are within the same department. Within your agenda package, page 4 begins listing out what the audits will be for 2023. So the first one, the proposed audit, is on the procurement card program. The second one is the vendor master file. So those first 2 items are actually within my department, within financial services.
And remaining? Who would do the remaining?
Alicia will lead the audit for all of the listed plans on pages 4 through 6 for 2023. And then on page 6, the 2024 proposed audit objectives are listed there.
Madam, my point is that you have an independent branch for auditing, or that is under you. That should be, in my opinion, that should be directly under CEO or mayor, not under a director.
Yep. Through the chair, there's two different audit processes that are used by the municipality. There's an overall audit that's done by an outside agency on an annual basis, and council has seen that in the past. These are internal audits, and you'll notice in the staff report and the materials provided that the individual that's taking the audit under our legislation has clear authority to be independent internally, whilst the individual doing the work reports to Ms. Farquharson, subsequently reports to me. They have full authority to look at the audit materials independently and have a direct line to council in reporting the findings of the audit. This series of audits are portions of operations and portions of departments. It's not department by department, but it could be just narrow aspects. For example, the use of procurement cards, payment cards within the municipality. That's a narrow piece that is across a number of departments. Some of it could be specific to departments. But as laid out in the plan, there are 7 of them in each year planned out. Some of them are catching up on deferred audits that got postponed because of all the issues faced by the flood in 2020 and the subsequent pandemic that delayed our ability to undertake this work.
Sir, my point, question is basing on the observation of the past. Something was wrong and external audit was also called. The mayor was looking towards the CEO and CEO was looking towards the staff. So I think what all auditors make the observation that should go to the mayor also and to CEO also, that mayor has no reason to look towards CEO. That is my point of view. And if he is not satisfied, he may ask for external audit.
So ultimately, as Chief Administrative Officer, I have responsibility. Under the legislation, the CFO is a statutory position that has also financial responsibility for the organization, has a duty to report to council. The framework that's established, the individual that undertakes the audits has a direct line of reporting to council, and that is independent in that regard. So any of the findings are reported directly to myself and council, and will be used to change procedures, change processes, whatever the case may be, as they are with our overarching annual audit that's done by an external auditor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Councilor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this question may sound rude or out of place, but to the CFO, is the question that's just been asked included in the information that you provided to council in the documents we've read?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question? I'm not quite understanding.
I just want to clarify that the question that's just been asked about what the purpose of this is has been included with the documents you've been provided to council.
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, that is correct. With the agenda package, the audit charter clearly identifies a responsibility for the audit activities and the reporting relationship back to council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Grandison. Thank you, Ms. Farquharson. Councilor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through to Laurie. Is this the first time that the RMWB has had an internal audit charter?
No, through the chair to Councillor Stroud, the internal audit charter was developed, and I'm not sure how many years it's been in place, but the previous incumbent had put forward the audit charter, and it's very similar. There's just some minor rewording from what has been previously presented to council. I believe it may have been the previous council that it was presented to. I'm not 100% sure of the timelines.
Okay, thank you. And this question is to the CAO. If an objective is approved in the internal audit plan by council, can the RMWB department request that it be forwarded to a following year?
I think there are some internal discussions that happen. I think you've seen it in the kind of legacy information that's been provided. There have been deferrals made. That could be implications of workload or things that are going on within the department, or more broadly, and certainly the floods of 2020 and the subsequent pandemic had an impact as well.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, just to add clarity, the audit position, the incumbent was on maternity leave. And then when she was supposed to return from maternity leave, she actually put in a resignation. So I subsequently hired Mrs. Hubert.
Thank you.
And she's very anxious to get started with this plan.
Thank you, Councilor Stroud. Councilor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and thank you for the presentation. You've explained a lot about the audit will be under the finance department, from what I understand. I had that question written down, and I wanted to know from the CAO if this is a normal practice in other municipalities. Because to ensure free from interference, I picked some words from your submission, disciplined approach, and all of that. I'm wondering why this, I mean, if this is the normal practice, then fine. But I felt strongly too that this should be under CAO, except if I'm missing the purpose of the internal audit department. And the CFO also said the internal audit department existed before, which is known to the public that stopped at some point and that wasn't being done. So I just want to know if this is the normal practice. If you don't have the answer, then we can get the answer later.
Through the chair, internal audit practices are normal part of financial operations of any corporate entity. Certainly it's not unusual for local governments of various scales to have internal audit, both capabilities and processes that do these on a periodic basis. I did just want to go back to your first comment. I think I heard you say that the audit is on the financial services department, but it's not an audit of our financial services department. It's an audit of the organization and a number of aspects of the organization. Some of that's financial, some of it's other processes.
Yeah, so I was asking if this will be under the CFO and if this is normal for every municipality that the internal auditors are under the CFO. That's my question.
Absolutely not unusual.
Is unusual?
It's not unusual. It is not unusual.
Okay. And some of the processes that will be audited will be the finance department as well.
Yeah, I think as Ms. Farquharson has outlined, there is a number of audit projects proposed. Most of them have a financial aspect, but they are broader than just the finance department. Again, I go back to I think a really valid example of payment cards, for example, which are used across the organization. That is a financial process. The audit is aimed at understanding across the organization and making sure we're following best practices, following our standards, and ensuring that those are being used appropriately.
So why would that not be reported to you directly?
Sorry?
Why would the report not come to you directly?
Well, effectively it does. And I would go back to perhaps what's outlined in
the charter.
The charter.
Page 4 of the charter, actually. No, it's not page 4, is it?
Page 2 of the charter, I think, is, so if you talk about the organization,
The reports, from what I read, will go to CFO, and CFO would eventually send report to you, or to go to both. My question is...
Can I just read this one section from page 2? I think it might help clarify. So in terms of organization, it says, the Chief Financial Officer, through the internal audit activity, will report functionally to Council and administratively, i.e. on day-to-day operations, to the Chief Administrative Officer. And the internal audit activity will remain free from interference by any element in the organization, including matters of audit selection, scope, procedures, frequency, timing, or report content to permit maintenance of necessary independent and objective mental attitude. Internal auditors will have no direct operational responsibility or authority over any of the activities audited. Accordingly, they will not implement internal controls, develop procedures, install systems, prepare records, or engage in any other activity that may impair the internal auditor's judgment. The intent here is that the auditor is independent, is not involved directly in setting up any of those processes, but is directly involved in evaluating those processes and reporting to the organization, ultimately to me and Council.
Okay, thank you. So not to CFO. Thank you.
Councilor Bajoka, if you check on page 135 of the council package, it has it outlined exactly how it goes to the CFO, the council, and the CAO. It's just 135. You can see it listed as right on that page there if you want to take a look at it.
Yes, I saw that, and that's what I questioned. I was thinking it should be directly to CAO, and in my final comment would be, if it's possible, I would like for us to check and be sure that this is the normal practice in municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bajoka. Councilor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. More of a comment again, just a comment and a congratulations to the process. I think that anytime we have an independent audit situation of all of our departments, of all of our programs, of everything that we do that's independently reported back to the CFO and then subsequently back to our CAO, it just makes us a stronger, more responsible organization to our community and to the ratepayers. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the parties concerned for actually ensuring this happens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Grandison. And I'll let you get away with it that time, but there was no question in there. Do we have any delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no delegates.
Thank you. Can I have someone make the motion? Councilor Ball?
I move that the internal audit charter be approved and the 2023-2024 internal audit plan be approved.
Thank you. Can I have someone second that motion? Councilor Bajoka?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or debate points from council for administration? Councilor Straub?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through the chair to Lori. So in reviewing the risk matrix, the majority of ranking is in the high and the extreme. Can I get an explanation on why there is that many in that area?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, Alicia will answer that question for you.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud. The risk matrix was based on an audit universe. An audit universe is composed of different audit activities as they were identified by council reports, by agenda items. They were identified, for example, for annual budgets, what's there, emerging issues that have come forward throughout the year by different departments, including the public. So you do have to put that audit universe together, which is a whole bunch of activities within that audit. And then you got to measure according to the probability as well as the consequence of what ifs were to happen. So yeah, I can see that there is quite a high number on that, but you got to realize that the numbers will probably be increasing as the audits keep on proceeding, the internal audit function proceeds, because there has been no audit taking place since COVID, the global pandemic, since the flood. There has been no audit activity happening. So more than likely, we'll be able to identify new risk as well as the audit function comes forward, as more council meetings happen. It is high. Unfortunately, that's the reality that we live in. We do have a combination of a rural as well as an urban community. So that as well presents other risks compared to other municipalities, like if we were to use other cities, for example. I hope I answered your question, but it is high, I know, and I know it is high. And we're hoping that through the internal audit activity, that we will be able to address efficiencies that we can put in place. It's not only about the finance part, but it's as well as the process that we're using in order for us to do our day-to-day operations. So hopefully the recommendations will come through to make us more efficient.
Right, and you've had a vacancy in the auditor position for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's going to give you a backlog, because I can see some of these objectives go back to 2018, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stroud. Do we have any other questions from council? Not seeing any. I call for a vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, ladies. So thanks everyone for participating in tonight's meeting. Marcy Cho, Kinwis Compton, thank you. Bonne nuit. Thanks everyone.